It was business as usual today as students left for the weekend. Several students I talked to say they had no idea what was happening inside school walls while school was in session until after today. Others say they were alerted on social media through our Facebook posts and our tweets saying that there was a student who was arrested. Cleanup's going good. If you were with us in the 4, you saw that the tree behind me was completely over, no crews. In the 5, crews had just started to arrive. That's why I had to wear my hard hat at 5. They wanted to make sure I was safe, even though I was far back. They just wanted to double check as they were chopping the tree. Now, the big reveal, the tree is gone. Tyler, besides some cars driving past and a few neighbors coming up to look and take pictures, the neighborhood has been very quiet. As I step out of the way so you can see the house is a complete loss. Yeah, experts say it honestly depends on what you're expecting to plant. Right now is really good to plant trees and shrubs. If you are looking to plant a garden, experts say to wait until after Mother's Day. Community leaders are looking to decrease those numbers by adding more resources to help those in need.
Really didn't know how this was going to go. I didn't know if we would have this many graduates or not, so it's awesome.
Covering the living room walls at the Harmony home are pictures, 31 of them, representing the men who graduated from the Harmony home's 12-step recovery program in Huntington. Robert Knorr is the executive director and founder who saw a need in the community for men struggling with alcohol and drugs.
And I know that God changed my life because before my recovery, it was all about me. And if it wasn't about me, if I wasn't getting something out of it, then I wasn't doing it. And now I'm completely the opposite. And I love it. It keeps me sober.
Harmony Home has grown from 1 house to 3 since opening 5 years ago. And when you look at the numbers, you can see the need for drug rehabilitation has grown across Huntington County. According to the Indiana Department of Health, from 2017 to 2021, overdose deaths jumped 950% in Huntington County. Huntington's overdose death rate in 2021 was almost 40% higher than the state's average. And in 2022, Huntington County had 15 overdose deaths, and the number of overdoses was in the hundreds. The Huntington County Health Commissioner says 23 overdoses have been reported in the county so far this year. To help, the Huntington County Sheriff's Department brought back the DARE program to elementary schools in the county. It teaches students about the dangers of drugs and alcohol.
It starts at a young age. Some people say we need to start them at school, I would like to see the families start them at home, but I do agree, start them young, at home and at school.
Staff from the Sheriff's Department also developed programs at the jail to help repeat offenders, and they're working on a jail chemical addiction program. Officials say it's a community issue that impacts everyone and deserves everyone's attention.
When they use and use and use and use and use, they mess up their chemicals so much so that now we've got a mental health crisis on our hands. So it's just like it's like the pyramid effect, crumbling down.
The incident took place just after 3:30 this morning, and police wasted no time releasing the officer's body cam footage just before noon the same day.
Stop! Police! You're gonna get tased!
You're watching footage of a Marion City police officer running after a man.
Stop! Put it down! Stop!
Who police say took off during a traffic stop.
Put your hands! You're gonna get it again! I wasn't doing Put your hands behind your back!
In the video, you see the unnamed officer ordering a man identified by police as 34-year-old William White to put his hands behind his back. That's when White gets up and starts walking toward the officer, and a struggle begins, and the camera falls to the ground. Here's what Indiana State Police say happened next.
And at some time, White produced a handgun, and the Marion police officer fired at least one shot from his service handgun, and then ultimately White died at the scene.
ISP officials say the night started when Marion police were called to a shots fired report in the 1500 block of South Florence. Police say nearly 2 miles away, the officer spotted a car matching the description from the shots fired call, which led to the traffic stop you see on camera. Police tape from the early morning shooting was still up surrounding streets around the Lincoln Hill Park. ISP officials say the Marion police officer has been put on administrative leave while the investigation continues.
This is a tough thing to go through, and no police officer wants to have to go through this, and we don't want to have to be the one knocking on the door saying that someone's loved one's not coming home, regardless of the situation.
The investigation is ongoing, and we will bring you the latest updates as they become available. Next few days, Fort Wayne will be green in more ways than one. They'll be dyeing the river on Saturday, but the festivities begin tonight, rain or shine.
Hey, you guys, that looks fantastic!
Deer Park Irish pub owner Tony Henry gives me a sneak peek at the preparations.
Beautiful!
We were there as the tents and keg were going up.
As a keg of green beer, and it will be lowered.
This is the 25th year for the event. Henry says they started planning for the 3 days of festivities back in January. Out in the elements, fan favorites, keg throwing, and what Henry calls the world's shortest parade are back.
We believe that it's more than just about drinking beer, but having fun activities.
Henry says they are expecting 5,000 people to walk in over the weekend. They will pour thousands of gallons of beer, all while folks in these food trucks prepare fish and corned beef and cabbage nearby. The weather forecast might not be perfect, but Henry can predict a lot of fun either way.
There's going to be a lot of green beer, a lot of green beer.
Well, very carefully is the short answer, ladies. And let me just tell you, the sight of a barn on wheels had plenty of people lining the roads to see history in the making. Look closely. In the farm fields of Convoy, Ohio, in Van Wert County, this barn is on the move. Crews moving a local landmark to its forever home. The destination?
The first thing we said this morning when we got up was, today's the day.
The Lincoln Ridge Farm, owned by 5-generation farmers, Jeff and Kathy Thomas, a mile away.
I don't know if words can describe it, the feeling. I was in amazement because it was just like, oh, it's in the middle of the field already.
The mile-long move requires several hours. The barn rolled slowly across the frozen field as skid loaders laid steel plates to help keep that 70-ton structure going. At the same time, a motor attached to the beams moved the wheels through the field. But the short yet long trip had its challenges, thanks to some bumps in the road.
They ran into a communication problem with their remote control.
For 100 years, the barn sat on the Poling family's property, but they needed a bigger barn, so their neighbors bought it. The 3-day process began by lifting the barn onto the beams, and when the word got out, a crowd emerged each day.
We cross 3 different neighbors' land, and they've given us permission to do that. We think that's special in itself. And yes, it has become a community event here in Van Wert County.
Jeff Thomas took me out into the field, front and center, for the big move. And from one concrete foundation to another, the newly named Legacy Barn has a new home.
We are lucky. We're blessed.